Let's talk a little psychology. I've got some effed up theories or ideologies of racing. And first off, I think doing the work is the easy part. Anybody can go put in countless hours. It's about having a structure so you're not pushing yourself into an aerobic state to where you can't effectively finish a race, where you're just beyond the threshold and you are overworked, you're overtraining. But that is the easy part of the equation. For the full compound effect to work, you have to have the mental fortitude over another guy, and then you also have to have the equipment. So there's a little bit of luck there. You got to set yourself up for success. And what I saw on the broadcast was we were talking about Tomac running into Kenny, where, yeah, he did hit Kenny, but it was caused by Cooper Webb. We're talking about the two most superior riders as far as mental toughness. We talk about Webb's racecraft all the effing time, and then Tomac, he's this introvert where he doesn't release any secrets, but you know he has a shit ton of them. So we'll watch this in full motion before I overanalyze it. And truthfully, you've got riders that are pushing on each other. You've got ruts that connect. And it's all about getting a wheel on somebody. Here's a secret for anybody that is racing. If you don't have a large rut in front of you, the best way to get an edge on your opponent is you line up next to the guy that you think is faster than you. In this case, you've got Webb lining up to Tomac because that's the guy he needs to beat. And so what he's hoping to do is to hop out in front and then instantly put an elbow on the guy, force the guy to hit the brakes or run into the back of you. I've actually had Tomac do this to me at a Pro-Am way freaking long time ago when we were both around 16 years old. Little shit was fast as hell back then and ended up taking me out on the start, but I digress. We continue to move this in slow motion. We can see that Cooper has got the wheel on everybody, but Sexton is moving over and Webb needs to get out of the way, and he's leaning then over on Tomac, which is the rider he needs to beat. Again, he's got the elbow room. He's even got the elbow room on Sexton. So I don't really believe that this was caused by Sexton. I believe this was all Webb just pushing in on Cooper, going, hey, I need to get ahead of you. So he pushes over on him, and what does Tomac do? Tomac checks up, and he has nowhere to go. So as opposed to letting off, he just barely almost runs into Kenny, and boom. It almost takes all three of them out. Almost takes all three of them out. And truthfully, in my opinion, this is a dick measuring contest that happens all the freaking time on the starts. So then Tomac checks up, and they both end up going from potentially getting the top 5 start, top 3 start, to now they're sort of in the back of the pack, all because of what happened midway through the start. Up next is Ken Roczen. He was the only rider I saw do this. If you watch the shit show race that I had with Kevin Moranz and Hunter Yoder and Coach and Cooksey on last Friday, we talked about this line and how scary this line would be. Moran said, I sure hope I don't have to pull that out because it's going to make me, my butthole is going to be this, this big because I'm going to be squeezing my ass cheeks so much because I'm going to be holding on for dear effing life. And I'm just incredibly bewildered by the capacity of these riders to be able to check out and have fear just be an alternative. Just have them just shoot and make it happen in the heat of the moment, which is just astonishing. So if I play this in real time, we'll see that Kenny goes wide, triples, then C-bounce hard to get off of that again, and then jumps off. And that is almost the sketchiest thing right there. It's almost as if this rhythm part was sharp enough that it was meant to potentially be just a takeoff. Yes, the majority of Supercross stuff is built both directions. This, to me, is the scariest part of that, because if you're going to jump, we can all relate to jumping off the side of the track or jumping into a corner. I would much rather triple into a corner than triple coming out of a corner. What I mean is there's no obstacle afterwards. If you're tripling into something and there's a big rhythm of something afterwards, it's much scarier than if it's at the end of the section where there's nothing after. So if you case it or over jump it, you're in the clear. But for something like this, it is just full send, full FU, WFO commitment to seat bounce that sucker and make it. Because then if something goes wrong, it's going to go really wrong. And here, there's still full commitment after this. Even though he made the section, he can't land. If he lands on the brakes, he's endoing, he's crashing. He's got to land committed to preloading the motorcycle and bouncing up and over. Because watch, there is no lip on this. And he barely gets up and over that. And look at that. That is incredibly terrifying. Even potentially the risk of endoing into the next lip is just insane. And part of the reason why I feel Kenny didn't do this consistently is the risk versus reward. As the track deteriorates, the risk comes exponentially, along with, your aerobic system being less and less each lap, like the capacity. You're just getting tired. As much as we want to say that these guys are superhuman, they are just well-trained professional athletes, which could have some help with other supplements, etc. But it does not deteriorate their work ethic and what they have done to be better than an average individual. So he sets up by going wide. You see Sexton, they're going lower because the fastest way around a track is the less coverage, the less area that you have to travel, you can get there faster. So he's got to go faster on the outside, but he's setting up way on the outside. And triple, and then this. In order to make this, you have to make sure that you seat bounce the hell out of that. And as this track deteriorates, there's going to get to be ruts and holes here that it's going to make it harder for him to seat bounce off the lip. So Kenny, incredibly smart individual, he has changed how he rides, where he's not as risky later on in the motos because he knows that he gets tired and he starts to fatigue. So that's why I don't believe we saw him do any of this other stuff. And it wasn't that much faster. Was not that much faster. He didn't have to continuously hit this line in order to still get on the podium on an 09 Suzuki. There's a joke there. The silly dragon back, that wasn't really a dragon back because it was safer on the last lip. Normally there's a huge gap between the top lip and the landing lip, but this was filled in as like a tabletop. It was odd, but they were meant to try to keep it safer, but because of the angle of the dangle, it messed up a lot of people with their front ends knifing and switching back. I digress. We can see Sexton. We'll just do it in real time. Brop, seat bounce. And we've seen Webb do that. See, Webb does it right behind him. He probably picked it up from Sexton. That is a fast way of going about that dragon back. And this is one of those techniques that if you're an up-and-coming rider, why you need to learn how to seat bounce. Because seat bounce is slower of the two preloads, of preloading with your legs over seat bouncing. Because seat bouncing creates more of a bounce, and the more time you are in the air, the less time the wheels are on the ground and actually pushing forward. But in certain instances, you're going to get a bigger pop, and so it's going to travel you farther, and you're going to be able to do jumps that you normally couldn't do. These riders couldn't stand preloading this. They had to seat bounce to get all the way over it, but it was just miraculous that they could just seat bounce and quad up over the dragon back right out of a corner. That's what makes it spectacular. Drop all the way up and over. And I love it that they start busting out new stuff outside of qualifying, but you have to realize that these riders get better the more time they are on the track. They had press day on Friday. They've got qualifying beforehand, and so they've seen the track for about an hour before they even get to these final motos. So they're going to get better and more proficient at their practice track, because at this point it becomes not as much of a racetrack, it becomes more of a practice track because they could do this almost in their sleep with their eyes closed. You get the analogy. Last but not least, the little bikes, the 250s. There's a difference in torque. We can all agree that a 450 has much more bottom-end torque more grunting power than a 250. The big reason why I haven't liked the Huskies and the KTMs is because they are more of a mid to top end type motorcycle. They don't have the grunt on the bottom. That's why I always loved putting big bores in the little bikes, because boring it out reversed the scenario where now the motor made most of its power, most of its hit on the very bottom. And we'll watch Jet here, where a lot of the 450 guys were tripling into the section, which is faster. If you could always triple into something rather than double, it's going to be faster. At the beginning of a section, a triple is always going to be faster than the end of a section. So we've got Jet here, and the majority of the 250 riders, they go double, then triple into the corner. But what do the 450s do? Well, the 450s, we've got Kenny here, seat bounce, and he's having a seat bounce it with a little bit more of a grunt. And just what I talked about previously a few minutes ago, as far as that technique is a must learn for any up-and-coming rider, because you need to have that in your toolkit, because it enables you to get the height and the distance to get over objects that you wouldn't normally be able to do. So a seat bounce, brop, triple, then double into the corner. And because you're doubling into the corner, well, now you can sit down, brake a little bit more, and check somebody up for that next double Sexton, which I talked about in my previous videos, as this was potentially a passing point to cut somebody off. Luckily, nobody really got cut off during main events. This is Johnny F. and Hopper. Till next time, keep it WFO. Make sure you like and subscribe. Again, building a community. You guys have all contribute to helping out. I've got the Patreon. I've got the channel memberships, which I do a giveaway every month. Last month, we did a Motorsport gift card. This month, we are giving away a full set of graphics. At the end of the last Thursday of every month, I do that giveaway. Make sure you stay tuned for the Friday Shit Show, where we talk about bench racing and what potentially is going to be up and coming for the race that weekend. But, bro!